I want you to close your eyes for a second. We're going to a place that feels, well, less like a modern factory and more like a medieval alchemist's lab.
Yeah.
We're in Paderno Dugnano, this sort of nondescript industrial suburb just outside of Milan, Italy. And inside, the air is heavy. It smells of sulfur, of heated ceramic, and that metallic tang of liquid fire.
It's intense. I mean, we're talking about furnaces roaring at over 1,000 degrees Celsius.
Exactly, 1,150 degrees, to be precise. And right in the center of this inferno, there's a craftsman holding a crucible. He's about to pour molten gold into a mold.
The whole room goes silent.
Dead silent, except for the roar of the fire. Everyone is holding their breath, because his hand shakes, even by a millimeter, or if the temperature of that metal is off by just a few degrees, they don't just ruin a casting.
No, they destroy the dreams of billions of people.
It sounds like a movie trailer, but the stakes really are that high.
Oh, absolutely. We aren't making car parts or jewelry here. We are inside the forge of the FIFA World Cup trophy.
And that is the mission for today's deep dive. We are unpacking the creation of the most recognized symbol in global sport. And we've got this stack of incredible sources, technical breakdowns from manufacturing engineers, chemical analyses of the gold alloys, even interviews with the actual artisans at GDE Bertoni who make this thing.
And what I love about this topic is the contrast. You have this object that represents the absolute pinnacle of global glory. It's valued at over $20 million. Just for the material. Yet its creation is this gritty, sweaty, dangerous process. It's a collision of ancient lost wax casting techniques and absolute cutting-edge, micron-precise engineering.
So today, it's strictly physical. No VAR controversies, no penalty shootouts.
Not a single one.
Just metallurgy, physics, and a lot of gold. But before we light the furnaces, we have to talk about the object itself. Because the trophy, we all know, the two figures holding up the world, it wasn't always the prize, was it?
No, it wasn't. And to understand the engineering of the current trophy, you really have to understand the tragedy of the first one. For about 40 years, the world fought for the Jules Rimet trophy.
A totally different design.
Completely different. It was a gold-plated silver cup depicting Nike, the Greek goddess of victory.
And that trophy had just a chaotic life. It was hidden in a shoebox under a bed during World War II to keep away from the Nazis.
Right, and then it was stolen in England in 1966 and found by a dog named Pickles.
Still the best piece of trivia in sports history. A collie named Pickles found it wrapped in newspaper in a garden hedge.
But the luck ran out. In 1983, it was stolen again in Rio de Janeiro and was never found. The consensus is that it was melted down for its bullion value.
Which is just a tragic end for an icon.
Yeah.
But that theft forced FIFA's hand. In 1971, they needed a replacement.
So they launched a massive design competition, 53 proposals from 7 different countries. And the winner was an Italian sculptor named Silvio Gazzaniga.
And his vision was so different.
It was radical. He didn't design a cup. I mean, technically, the World Cup isn't a cup at all. You can't drink out of it. He described his vision as lines springing out from the base, rising in spirals, stretching out to receive the world.
It's a sculpture of dynamic tension, two athletes holding the earth.
Exactly.
It's beautiful art.
Yeah.
But once the applause died down, the engineers look at that sketch and probably panic.
Oh, for sure.
Because how do you actually build this thing? It's not a simple ball. It has complex geometry, it has to be durable, and it has to be gold.
And this brings us to the first major technical hurdle, the material itself. If you ask the average fan on the street, they'll tell you the World Cup is solid gold.
Is it?
Well, scientifically it cannot be, and here's why. The trophy stands about 36 centimeters tall. If you were to cast that volume in solid 24-karat gold, the object would be incredibly dense. A chemist we looked at, Martin Polyakov, actually did the math.
What?
A solid gold World Cup would weigh between 70 and 80 kilograms.
70 to 80. That's like lifting a grown man over your head.
Exactly. Imagine the captain of Argentina or France trying to hoist that up after playing 120 minutes of football. It's physically impossible.
So requirement number one for the engineers, it has to be hollow.
Has to be hollow.
Okay, so it's hollow, but what about the purity? Why not just use 24-karat gold for the shell? Isn't that the most prestigious?
It is, but it's an engineering nightmare. Pure gold is notoriously soft. It's malleable. You can practically dent it with your teeth.
Right.
If you made the trophy out of 24-karat gold and a defender gripped it too tight in the heat of celebration, or if it got knocked against a cleat, it would deform. You'd have thumbprints in the metal.
So they have to dilute it.
They would.
Yeah.
The trophy is made of 18-karat gold. And in chemical terms, that just means it's 75% pure gold and 25% other.
And what's the other?
It's a specific cocktail, usually copper and silver. The copper provides the structural hardness. It makes the metal rigid enough to hold its shape. And the silver helps balance out the redness from the copper to maintain that rich, lustrous yellow color we all associate with victory.
So we have our recipe, we have the design. Now how do we make it? I assumed, reading the intro, that this was all old school hammer and chisel work. But the sources mention something that sounds very sci-fi, a digital twin.
This is where the modern era just crashes into the process. Before they ever touch a piece of wax or metal, the artisans at GDE Bertoni create a high-resolution 3D CAD model of the trophy.
Wow.
And they don't just use it for pictures, they run simulations on it.
Simulations like video games.
More like aerospace engineering. They use something called finite element analysis, or FEA. They can virtually apply physics to the digital trophy. They simulate the stress of a player lifting it by one arm to see if the hollow shell will buckle.
They simulate the celebration.
They do. They even simulate thermal expansion.
Why does thermal expansion matter?
Well, think about the life of this object. It travels in the cargo hold of a plane, which is freezing. Then it lands in Qatar, where it's 30 degrees Celsius, or Mexico, where it could be 40.
Right. Big temperature swings.
Huge swings. Metal expands with heat and contracts with cold. If the geometry isn't perfect, those cycles could cause the gold to warp or crack over time. They solve all those problems on the computer screen before they risk a single gram of gold.
That is just wild. They stress test the victory celebration before the tournament even starts.
Precision is the only way. And once that digital model is approved, they use CNC milling machines to carve the master patterns with micron-level accuracy. But once those masters are cut, we leave the computers behind.
We go back to the fire.
We enter the realm of the lost wax technique. It's a method called Sire Perdue. Humans have been using this for thousands of years to make idols and jewelry, but Bertoni has updated it for the modern age.
Okay, so walk us through this step by step, because it really does feel like a magic trick.
It all starts with wax. They take those master molds and they inject a special red wax into them to create a perfect replica of the trophy. But it's not just the trophy itself. They attach these wax channels called sprues and gates.
It looks kind of like a tree, right? A wax trophy with branches growing out of it.
Exactly. Those branches are the plumbing. They're going to guide the liquid metal into the sculpture later on.
Got it.
Once that wax tree is assembled, they move to a stage called investing, or what I like to call cocooning.
This is the dipping part.
Right. They take the wax tree and dip it into a ceramic slurry. It's a liquid mix of silica sand and binders. They dip it, they let it dry, and then they dip it again. They do this over and over, building up a hard, heat-resistant ceramic shell around the wax.
So at this point, you have a wax trophy that's trapped inside a rock.
Correct. And then comes the magic trick. They put the whole assembly into an autoclave, which is basically a high-pressure steam oven. The heat melts the wax, which runs out of the shell.
The wax is lost,
Hence the name.
and what's left behind is just a negative.
A perfect, hollow, ceramic void in the exact shape of the World Cup. It's just waiting to be filled.
And this brings us right back to that room in Milan, the pour.
The moment of truth. Now, you can't just dump hot gold into a cold ceramic shell. The thermal shock would shatter the mold instantly.
Oh, wow.
So they have to preheat the ceramic mold to match the temperature of the metal.
And the atmosphere matters too, right? You can't just do this in open air.
Ideally, no. They often use a vacuum furnace or an inert gas environment. If oxygen gets into the mix at those temperatures, it reacts with the copper in the alloy, creating oxides that, well, it just ruins the finish.
Talk to me about the temperature. You mentioned it was super specific.
It's a chemical ballet. The gold alloy is heated to between 1,050 and 1,150 degrees Celsius. That is the window.
Okay.
If it's too cold, say 1,000 degrees, the metal is too viscous. It's like trying to pour cold honey. It won't flow into the tiny crevices of the world map on the top of the trophy. You'll get a globe with missing continents.
And if it's too hot?
Then you get porosity. Gas bubbles get trapped in the liquid metal. When it cools, those bubbles become microscopic holes in the surface, and you cannot polish out a hole.
So if that happens.
The entire casting is scrap. You have to melt it down and start all over again.
And the scary part is, once they pour that liquid fire into the mold, they are flying completely blind.
That's the tension. You pour it, and then you wait. You have to trust the physics. As the metal cools, it crystallizes, and the speed of that cooling dictates the grain structure of the gold. If it cools unevenly, you get brittle spots.
So the metal solidifies, it cools down, now comes the breakout. The sources describe this as looking like an archaeological excavation.
It's surprisingly violent. They use hammers and vibration tools to smash that hard ceramic shell. Dust is flying everywhere, and as the shell falls away, the thing that's revealed, well, it's the ugly duckling phase.
It doesn't look like $20 million.
Not even close. It looks like industrial debris. The gold is dull brown, and it's covered in oxidation scales. It has a rough, sandy texture from the ceramic.
Oh, wow.
And it still has those metal feed rods, the sprues sticking out of it like weird alien branches.
If I saw that on the floor, I wouldn't even pick it up.
You might not. But this is where the robots leave the room, and the true artisans take over. We really need to talk about the human touch at GDE Bertoni.
The Lusa family.
Yes. This workshop is a legacy. Eugenio Losa founded it, and his granddaughter, Valentina Losa, runs it now. They have been the guardians of this trophy since the 70s, and the finishing process is entirely manual.
It's wild to think that in the 21st century, we are still using chisels on the most high-tech trophy in the world.
It's the only way to get the detail. First, they cut off the feed rods, which leaves scars on the metal. They grind those down. Then they take these tiny hammers and chisels to define the figures.
And the scale here is so small.
It's tiny, the globe on top is small, the continents are raised. The artisans have to use tools called burins engravers, often working under a microscope, to sharpen the coastlines.
They're literally carving the world.
Literally. They are defining the muscles on the athletes' backs. And you have to remember, this is gold, it's soft. If the chisel slips, you gouge the metal. You can't just erase a deep scratch without removing material which alters the weight and the shape.
One slip and months of work are ruined. And then comes the shine.
The polish. And this is a grueling process. They move from rough grinding to finer and finer abrasives. Finally, they use these soft felt wheels with diamond paste and rouge, which is basically an iron oxide powder. They are smoothing the metal down to the molecular level.
That's what gives it that liquid look.
Exactly. A mirror finish isn't a coating, it's the metal itself, smoothed so perfectly that it reflects light without scattering it.
But the trophy isn't all gold. We have to talk about the base, those two green bands that everyone recognizes.
The malachite. It's a copper carbon hydroxide mineral, and it has those beautiful natural concentric bands of light and dark green.
So why malachite? Was it just what Gazzaniga had lying around?
No, it was a very deliberate choice. Aesthetically, the green provides a perfect contrast to the yellow gold. But symbolically, it represents the pitch.
The green fields of football.
It grounds the trophy, connecting the celestial gold to the earth.
And how do they attach it? I mean, do they just glue it on?
It's a mechanical assembly. The gold body has a central rod that goes through the malachite rings, but malachite is fragile. It's a soft stone and it's porous.
So you have to be careful.
So careful. If you tighten the assembly too hard, the stone cracks. If it's too loose, the trophy rattles. It has to be perfect.
And there's a vulnerability with the materials, right? Gold doesn't tarnish, but the alloy might.
The copper in the alloy can tarnish, and the malachite definitely can. Plus, you have to think about the environment. Sweat, champagne, humidity, rain. To protect it, they apply a final, invisible coat of Zappan varnish.
Right.
It's a cellulose nitrate lacquer that seals the luster and protects the chemistry from the elements.
There's one more detail on the trophy that fascinates me. And it's something most people will never see because it's on the bottom.
The spiral of champions.
Right. Since 1974, every winner's name is engraved on the trophy. But not on the side. They're engraved on the bottom gold plate, spiraling inward. It's like a secret history.
It is.
But I read in the notes that they're running into a bit of a logistical problem with that spiral.
They are. The original design didn't account for infinite winners. They've already had to rearrange the layout to squeeze more text in. The calculations suggest that the spiral of champions will run out of empty space around 2038 or maybe 2042.
That is essentially tomorrow in World Cup terms.
It is. It's a looming design crisis.
So we have this finished object. It's polished, varnished, engraved. It's perfect. But here is the reality check that always stings a little bit. The team that wins the World Cup, they don't actually get to keep it.
No, they don't. And this goes right back to the trauma of the Jules Rimet theft. FIFA learned their lesson. The original trophy, the one we just described, the 18-karat gold and malachite masterpiece worth $20 million, stays with FIFA.
So it lives in a vault in Zurich.
Or in the FIFA World Football Museum, yeah.
So when we see the players on TV, running around the pitch, sliding on the grass with the trophy, is that a fake?
Not usually. For the official ceremony on the pitch and the immediate locker room celebration, they are holding the real deal. That is the one moment the original leaves its security bubble.
Oh, okay.
But shortly after, security steps in.
The buzzkills arrive.
The original goes back into its climate-controlled case, and the team is handed a replica, a winner's trophy.
And the replica is not quite the same.
It looks the same on TV. It's also made by GDE Bertoni, but it is gold-plated bronze. It's still valuable, still heavy, but it just lacks that spiritual weight of the original.
Well, I guess you can't risk a $20 million asset being left on a team bus or dropped during a parade.
Exactly. The security protocols around the real trophy now are intense. We are talking armed guards, GPS tracking devices embedded in the case. It travels like a head of state.
It really highlights the alchemy of the whole thing. And I don't mean the chemical alchemy we discussed. I mean the emotional one.
That's the key. If you strip it all down, like we just did, it's copper, silver, gold, and some green rock. You can buy these materials on the market. But the belief, the fact that the entire world agrees this object represents the pinnacle of human achievement, that is what transforms it.
And that transformation starts in that quiet factory in Milan. You know, what strikes me is that the people who know this trophy best, the people who know every scratch, every micron of the grain structure, every chemical property of the varnish, they aren't the players.
No, it's the artisans at Bertoni. They're the only ones who handle it in its raw, vulnerable state. They're the only ones who touch it without gloves before the varnish is applied. There is an intimacy there that I find really profound.
They build the dream, they polish it until it shines, and then they just send it away for someone else to lift in the stadium.
It's the silence before the roar.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one thought to chew on. We talked about that spiral on the bottom running out of space in the 2030s. When that happens, the trophy will literally become full of history. FIFA will have to make a choice.
A huge choice.
Do they attach a new, larger base and alter the iconic design? Or do they retire this trophy, just like they did the Jules Vermet, and commission a third one?
That will be a debate as big as the tournament itself. I mean, can you imagine being the designer tasked with following Gazzaniga?
I would not want that job. That is all for this deep dive into the Forge of Glory. We hope next time you see that golden statue hoisted in the air, you'll see the fire and the physics behind the shine.
Thanks for listening.
Catch you next time.